Greetings, Earthlings. Now, I made a video well over a year ago on priority in the stack, and then not so recently with a follow-up video on special actions. What I wanted to cover today is probably the most convoluted part of any player's turn, and that's the combat phase. Let's go. So to start, for the newer players, your turn consists of 8 steps: untap, upkeep, draw, main phase 1, combat, main phase 2, and end step. We can count the cleanup step in there too, why not? The cleanup step is where you remove any damage on creatures and discard cards from your hand if you're above your maximum hand size. Now, all of these phases are pretty straightforward, but what is this? Oh boy. Yes. The combat phase is the only phase in the turn that comes with its own set of steps. You have the beginning of combat, which is your initial priority check between main phase 1 and the combat phase itself. Then you have the declare attacker steps where you, declare your attackers, tap the attacking creatures down, etc. Followed by the declare blocker steps where your opponents decide which creatures, if any, are blocking the oncoming attackers. Note that previously tapped creatures cannot block. Then comes the damage step, which all happens at once. It does not check for priority. And then finally you have the end of combat phase where all damage has been dealt and resolved, and you get a little window where you can cast instants or resolve something like reconnaissance. Attacking creatures in the end of combat phase are still considered attacking creatures, so anything that can deal with them at instant speed can be activated. And then, after the fact, you continue on to main phase 2, etc. Now, where all of this gets a bit murky is when it comes to actual combat keywords. When it all comes to declare attacker steps, all attackers are declared at once, no matter where they're being assigned to attack. But creatures with first strike or double strike add an additional priority check in the damage step. Or they add a priority check to the damage step, I should say. Because creatures with first or double strike always deal damage first, it gives a window of opportunity to cast instants or activated abilities before regular damage can be dealt. Any card that reads when this creature attacks or whenever a creature you control attacks will not trigger if a creature is cheated in, tapped, and attacking by something like Kalia the Vast or Ilharg the Raised Boar. They have to have already been on the field and declared as attackers. Now, some more important things to note are other combat keywords. Creatures with Death Touch only need to deal 1 point of damage to kill a creature. Any damage beyond that is redundant, unless said creature also has Trample. With how the ruling of Trample is, any damage excess of lethal will trample over to the defending player. Because a creature with Death Touch only needs to deal 1 damage to be lethal, any damage in excess of 1 will go over, even if a creature is indestructible. The creature just won't die. The only way to circumvent it is to block with as many creatures as there are power points, or if a blocking creature has banding, but I already have a whole video on that. Or if a blocking creature has first strike and can deal enough damage to kill the death touching creature. Creatures with both death touch and first strike will always kill a creature without being hit back. The only exception is if the creature is indestructible, or you play a one-sided fog effect. Or if the creature only has 1 power and you double block with enough to kill it. The annoying part about the damage step is there's a lot of math involved when you get into these gigantic wars of attrition. Another thing to note is for the declare blocker steps is if you declare a blocking creature and you tap that creature while you're holding priority, it does not remove that creature from combat unless it's something like Ith that can activate his namesake ability. If you block a huge creature with a small creature and you can sacrifice it in response, then that bigger creature is still considered blocked and no damage will go through. Again though, unless it has trample, because now anything above 0 is lethal. So all the damage from said creature will be dealt right to your face. So in instances like that, you might as well just let the creature block and die and negate some of the damage. Some other keywords that aren't as common and much simpler to explain are intimidate and fear. Intimidate means that creatures can only be blocked by creatures of the same color or artifact creatures. As I mentioned in my weird Audric video, if you have a colorless creature with Intimidate, then only colorless artifact creatures can block it, as colorless is not a color. Fear will always only apply to black creatures and artifact creatures no matter what. Back on the note about creatures cheated in with Ilharg or Kalia, is that if you run something that gives extra combat phases, those creatures cannot attack again, as cheating them in does not grant them haste. Those types of triggers can also cheat in things normally can't attack, or have to meet weird requirements to be able to attack, like creatures with Defender or Master of Cruelties. It's also a really strong ability if you want easy ways to trigger Enter's abilities. And because you're in combat, it's a small window of opportunity to do anything about it. There are countless combat keywords that aren't really worth going over in great detail, like flanking is a fun one, but it's not common in games, and things that either are or can become unblockable with factors such as Intimidate, Fear, Skulk, or outright unblockable can add additional weird things to combat. Like, I run a Similla Miletian Poet deck on Arena, and with Access Tunnel I can make it unblockable before combat. Then when his ability triggers and makes him stronger, he still retains that unblockable ability. But all in all, the combat phase isn't all that complicated once you understand the steps, and it's usually just as simple as I'm attacking, okay, I'm blocking type of interaction. So even though I went into pretty descriptive detail and made the phase seem way more complicated than it is, it's really not. It's just the fact that there are so many types of interaction in that phase versus any other phases in your turn that I felt that it needed its own explanation video. But aside from all that, if you want to chat more about it, join the Discord. It's free. Chat me up in there. I'm always talking. Check out my music. Got some more releases happening. Wrap that like, tap that subscribe. Peace.